It was an ordinary afternoon at the CNN studio, but something in the air felt different. The backstage was buzzing, cameras adjusting, lights being set, and the crew preparing for what was anticipated to be one of the year's most awaited interviews. The guest? Elon Musk. The name alone promised a spectacle. The tech mogul, the eccentric billionaire, the man behind Tesla, SpaceX, and so many other groundbreaking innovations. He was about to sit down in front of one of CNN's sharpest reporters, known for his ability to press powerful figures until their answers were clear and direct. But no one knew what Musk was going to bring to the table. Musk walked into the studio with the calm confidence that characterized him, almost like an outsider in a game he already knew how to play. He wore his usual minimalist outfit, a black t-shirt and jeans, but his presence immediately commanded the room. It wasn't just the power of the name, it was the air of a man accustomed to challenges, a man who wasn't easily intimidated. The reporter, however, was ready. He knew this was his golden opportunity to crack Musk's public image, perhaps even corner the billionaire and make him take a firm stance. After all, CNN had a mission: to turn this interview into a showdown, a moment of revelation. But as the reporter looked at Musk, something in his expression made the air grow even tenser. Musk wasn't someone who would be easily pressured. With a nod of his head, the reporter began, trying to break the ice as if it were a casual conversation. "Mr. Musk, it's a pleasure to have you here today. We know you've been critical of some of President Trump's policies, especially in the environmental and regulatory fields. What are your thoughts on what's happening in US politics?" The first part of the question was just an introduction, a gentle invitation for a possible clash. But the reporter knew exactly what he wanted: a clear answer. He was hoping Musk would take a firm position, perhaps even against the president. But what happened next caught even him off guard. Musk, in his relaxed style, simply looked at the reporter, taking his time before answering, as if weighing every word. "Well," he began with a slightly ironic smile, "I'm not here to play politics. I'm a businessman, and my focus has always been on innovation. If the government is doing something good for the economy, for science, for technological advancement, I support it. But honestly, it doesn't matter whether it's a Republican or a Democrat in power. What matters are the results." The reporter, with a mixture of surprise and disbelief on his face, quickly tried to reframe the conversation, to pull something more inflammatory from Musk, something that could be used in the story. But Musk, with a chilling calmness, had already made a point that would change the course of the interview. He wasn't going to fall into the trap of getting embroiled in a political debate. He was there to talk about something much bigger. The reporter, adrenaline rising, shifted tactics. He knew Musk wouldn't be easy to pin down, but he was determined to keep control of the conversation. "So you don't have an opinion on the impact of President Trump's environmental policies? Don't you think that could affect your companies? Like Tesla, for instance?" Once again, Musk took his time, observing the reporter with a somewhat amused look. He was enjoying this moment, using it as a masterclass in how to navigate a high-stakes interview. "Tesla," Musk said with a smile, "is focused on a much bigger mission than any short-term political policy. We're here to change the way the world thinks about energy and transportation. If a government supports that goal, great. If another government does the same, even better. I don't care about parties or ideologies. I care about progress." The answer hit like a bombshell. The reporter, who had expected a political clash, found himself speechless. The tone of the conversation immediately shifted. Musk wasn't there to engage in a political fight. He was there to discuss something far more important. He was making it clear strategically that his focus was on tangible results. His vision for the future was about innovation and technological advancement, not political battles. The reporter, trying to regain control of the interview, pressed on, "But Mr. Musk, your support for the current administration could be seen as an endorsement of Trump's policies, which might conflict with environmental and social policies that many people defend. How do you respond to that?" Musk, without hesitation, once again used his wit to steer the conversation. "Look, my role isn't to be a politician or an activist. My job is to create solutions that change the world. If I need to, I'll talk to anyone from any party, To make that happen, what matters to me is the mission, not the politics. The reporter was visibly stunned. It was as if Musk had just defused a bomb before it could go off. The interview, which was supposed to be a political showdown, was now turning into a lesson in strategy and vision. The atmosphere in the studio was tense now, almost palpable. The calmness with which Musk had handled the initial questions had thrown the reporter off balance. The CNN audience at home could feel it too, the shift from what was supposed to be a heated political interview into something else entirely. Musk was playing the game on his own terms. The reporter, looking for a way to regain control, cleared his throat and tried to tighten the grip of the conversation. He wasn't going to let Musk steer him too far off course. He leaned forward slightly, his tone a bit sharper this time. "Mr. Musk," he began, "you're a businessman. You've been deeply involved in the political landscape, especially with your relationship with President Trump. But what about your influence over policy? How do you justify that when your business interests may sometimes align with government decisions?" The question was more pointed this time, a bit of a trap, attempting to corner Musk by suggesting that his political engagements were more than just casual. It was an attempt to draw Musk into a conversation about power, influence, and potential conflicts of interest. Musk, ever composed, took a brief pause, staring thoughtfully at the reporter. He knew what the next move was going to be. With a smile that bordered on amused, he leaned back slightly in his chair. "Look," Musk said, his voice unwavering, "I'm not here to play the game of politics. You know, when you run a company like Tesla or SpaceX, you don't have the luxury of sitting on the sidelines. I talk to whoever is in charge because I want to move things forward. It's not about playing favorites, it's about getting the job done." The reporter, hoping for a different response, pressed further. "But do you think you're in a unique position to influence things, given your access to the highest levels of government? How does that sit with your companies when decisions from the government directly affect them?" He was trying to push Musk into admitting that his access to Trump or any administration could be seen as problematic, but Musk wasn't biting. Musk leaned forward now, his gaze locking with the reporter's. "It's simple," Musk responded, his tone still calm but now a little more pointed. "I'm a businessman, and just like any other businessman, I need to be in the rooms where decisions are made. But that doesn't mean I'm trying to control anything. I just want to make sure that policies align with innovation, because the future of the world depends on it. If you think that's controversial, then maybe the real problem isn't my access. Maybe the problem is the lack of real action from our leaders." The tension in the room grew thicker. The reporter, a little flustered now, tried again, looking for some sort of explosive response from Musk, something he could use to create controversy. "But you're in bed with this administration, aren't you? You publicly supported Trump's tax policies and deregulation plans. How do you reconcile that with your supposed environmental activism?" The question was designed to force Musk into a corner. But Musk, as usual, wasn't easily cornered. "Actually, let me correct you there," Musk said coolly. "Supporting tax policies or deregulation isn't the same as agreeing with everything a government does. What I care about is how those policies impact what I do. Make electric cars, help humanity get to Mars, and build sustainable energy solutions. If those policies happen to align with what I'm doing, great. But if another government offers better support for innovation, I'll work with them too. It's not about Trump or any politician, it's about the mission." The reporter, visibly shaken now, paused. He had expected Musk to react defensively, maybe admit to an ulterior motive, but instead, Musk had just refocused the conversation, again, on his overarching vision. It wasn't about politicians or politics. It was about the future. The reporter, realizing that his questioning wasn't getting anywhere, tried to steer the conversation to a new topic. But Musk had already taken control of the narrative. The audience at home could feel the shift. What started as a heated debate over Trump's policies had turned into a masterclass in how Musk thought about the world, how he saw his business ventures not as a way to gain political favor, but as instruments of change. The reporter had failed once again to catch Musk in a trap. Musk's ability to pivot and refocus the conversation left the CNN team scrambling. They had come prepared for a battle over politics, but instead, they were watching someone who wasn't interested in fighting the same battle. As the tension in the room grew, the interview seemed less like a traditional media clash and more like a chess game, with Musk several moves ahead, outsmarting his interviewer at every turn. The reporter's frustration was clear. Now, and the audience at home could feel that sense of uncertainty. This was no ordinary interview. Musk wasn't just answering questions, he was reshaping the entire conversation on his own terms. The air in the studio had thickened, and the viewers at home could sense it. The reporter was visibly rattled, trying to control a narrative that Musk had so effortlessly hijacked. His earlier attempts to trap Musk in political cornerstones had failed, and now he was desperate for a response that would make headlines. The power dynamic was clear now. Musk was the one in control. The CNN host knew he had one last chance to turn the conversation back in his favor, but it was becoming increasingly obvious that his usual tricks weren't going to work on the billionaire. With a shift in tone, the reporter decided to pivot. This time he wasn't going to ask about politics. He was going to hit Musk where he thought it would hurt the most. He leaned in, his voice lowering slightly, as if to signal that he was about to dive into something far more serious. "Mr. Musk," he began, "you've become a symbol for technological innovation, but there's a side of you that many people question. Many people say that you're a publicity magnet, that you intentionally stir controversy to keep your name in the headlines. Do you think that's a fair assessment of who you are?" Musk didn't flinch. The question was an obvious jab, an attempt to undermine his credibility, to suggest that Musk was just a master of media manipulation. It was a clever maneuver, but one that Musk had anticipated. He sat back in his chair, a slight smile curling at the corners of his lips. He was ready. "You know," Musk started, his voice calm, almost too calm, "I've never really cared about what people think of me. I'm not in this to win popularity contests. I'm in this to make a difference, and if that means challenging the status quo or speaking out on issues others won't touch, then so be it. If that means the media picks up on it, so be it. But let's be clear, my work speaks for itself. Tesla's success, SpaceX's achievements, the fact that we're advancing humanity's capabilities, that's not some publicity stunt. That's real, tangible progress. The headlines will follow, but they're just that, headlines." The reporter paused, clearly taken aback by Musk's unbothered response. It was as if the billionaire had dismissed the notion of playing into the media circus with a single sentence, focusing entirely on the reality of his work. The reporter tried to regain composure. "Okay," the reporter said, his voice still pressing, "let's talk about SpaceX for a moment. You've promised to take humans to Mars, and some would argue that this dream is well far-fetched. You're pouring billions into a project that, for most, seems like science fiction. How do you justify that kind of investment when there are pressing issues here on Earth that need attention?" Musk's expression didn't change. He leaned forward slightly, his gaze firm. "We're not just talking about sending people to Mars for the sake of it. This is about the survival of humanity. Earth has finite resources, and our future on this planet is uncertain. Climate change, resource depletion, political instability, these are issues that can affect us all. Space exploration is not just some luxury. It's a necessary step to ensure the survival of the species. It's a long-term investment, and it's one that could change the course of history." The reporter, growing increasingly frustrated, attempted another angle. "But there are people who say you're doing this for your own ego, for the thrill of conquering space. They say that you're a billionaire whose ventures are all about personal glory rather than true progress. What do you say to those critics?" Musk didn't hesitate for a second. "Let me tell you something," he began, leaning forward even more intently. "If I was in this for personal glory, I would have done things very differently. I could have easily kept all my wealth and lived a comfortable life. But that's not the point. The point is, we need to think bigger. We need to take risks. And sometimes those risks seem outlandish, but the future requires boldness. If I listened to all the people who told me no or that's impossible, we wouldn't have Tesla, we wouldn't have SpaceX, and we certainly wouldn't be talking about sending humans to Mars. Progress doesn't come from playing it safe." The reporter now had nowhere left to go. Musk had not only deflected every attempt to derail the conversation, but had turned the tables entirely. Instead of being on the defensive, Musk was setting the narrative. He was outlining his vision for the future in bold strokes, making it clear that his ventures weren't just about personal wealth or fame, they were about the survival and advancement of humanity. At this point, the tension in the room was palpable. The reporter had tried every angle, but none had fazed Musk. The billionaire had shown that, when it came to his work and his vision, he wasn't concerned with public opinion, political wins, or media manipulation. What mattered to him was the mission. He wasn't about to be drawn into a battle of egos or superficial arguments. He was playing the long game. As the minutes ticked by, it became clear to the audience at home, this interview was no longer just a conversation. It was an exhibition of a man who had mastered the art of controlling his own narrative. And the reporter, despite all his efforts, was left grasping for control in a situation that was quickly slipping out of his hands. By now, the interview had become less of a question and answer session and more of a mental chess match. The tension in the studio was undeniable, and the CNN audience watching at home could sense that the reporter's frustration was growing. Musk had already steered the conversation multiple times, each time demonstrating a level of control and mastery that left his interviewer scrambling. But the reporter wasn't giving up. In his eyes, this was his last chance to land a blow, to force Musk into admitting something, anything, that would make headlines. The reporter, now visibly exasperated, adjusted his glasses and leaned forward, signaling to both Musk and the audience that this was the final round. "Mr. Musk," he said with a hint of challenge in his voice, "you've painted yourself as someone above the political fray, someone who's only focused on innovation and progress. But let's face it, your actions, your business dealings, your support of Trump, it's all part of a larger game. You're not just a tech mogul, you're a power player in the political arena. You don't think that your ability to influence the US government, the policies that shape our society, isn't a direct reflection of your growing political power?" The question landed, but Musk didn't flinch. His expression was calm, almost detached, as if he had been waiting for this moment. "Look," Musk began, his tone cool but unwavering, "you're asking the wrong question. I don't see myself as a political power player. I see myself as someone who's trying to make a difference. I don't care about wielding power in the way you're describing. What I care about is creating a future that works for humanity, whether that's through cleaner energy, better transportation, or reaching the stars. If that means interacting with politicians to help make those things happen, I'll do it. But this idea of power, politics, influence, those are distractions. They don't define me." The reporter's frustration was now visible. It was as though he had reached the edge of his own narrative and realized that Musk wasn't going to be easily boxed into the story he had prepared. His last-ditch effort to corner Musk had failed, and Musk, almost too effortlessly, had just dismissed the whole idea of political manipulation. The billionaire had a mission, a vision, and no amount of pressure was going to make him waver. The reporter tried once more, his voice now tinged with a mix of disbelief and disbelief. "So you're saying you've built one of the most powerful business empires in the world? You've been involved with some of the most influential people in government, and you're telling me it's all just about innovation? There's no ambition to leave a mark on the political landscape. No desire to control the direction of the country?" Musk smiled. It wasn't a smug smile, but one that conveyed understanding. Understanding that the reporter had finally realized the truth. "I'm not interested in control, I'm interested in progress," Musk responded calmly. "What you're calling ambition, I call purpose. The future of humanity is at stake. We're facing challenges like climate change, resource scarcity, and the limits of Earth. My companies are not here to play games or follow the trends of the day. They're here to lead us into a new era, one where technology and sustainability are at the forefront. If that happens to involve engaging with politicians along the way, then so be it. But don't mistake that for a political agenda." The reporter at last understood. He had gone through every trick in the book. He had tried to provoke, challenge, and push Musk into a defensive position. But Musk had outmaneuvered him at every turn. He had remained calm, unflinching, and had used each question as an opportunity to clarify his vision. By the end of the interview, the reporter had no more questions to ask. His narrative had fallen apart, and Musk had proven that he wasn't just a businessman, he was a visionary. As the interview came to a close, the CNN studio lights brightened and the tension slowly began to dissipate. The reporter, while maintaining his composure, knew he had been outplayed. Musk, on the other hand, had once again solidified his place as a master strategist, not just in business but in the public eye as well. The audience, both in the studio and at home, were left in stunned silence. Musk's words echoed in their minds. It wasn't about politics, it wasn't about power. It was about something much bigger, about changing the world regardless of which politician held office. The billionaire had transformed an interview designed to expose his political affiliations into a declaration of his unyielding focus on innovation. He had revealed to the world that his goal was never to play the political game. It was to reshape humanity's future on his own terms. As the cameras shut off and the studio emptied, one thing was clear. This interview would go down as a moment where Musk's true power, not just in business but in shaping the world, had been revealed. The reporter, defeated but wiser, had learned that Musk wasn't just a figure in the media. He was a force to be reckoned with. And the world would be watching closely to see what came next.